Set.
Hi, I'm Dave Hunter. I am the current Executive Director of Zeta Psi. I'm a 1980 graduate from the University of Texas, where Zeta Psi has the Iota Alpha chapter.
Dave, could you describe your first experience with college life and your introduction to Zeta Psi?
Well, I actually started college. I was 17 years old with 2 suitcases, moving to the University of Texas from California, living in a dorm, didn't know a soul at school or in Austin, and muddled through a couple of years of school. And my older brother, Rip, who pledged Zeta Psi at California Berkeley, the Iota chapter, called me up one day and said, "Hey, what do you think about starting a fraternity chapter, University of Texas?" And I said, "Well, what fraternity?" He goes, "Zeta Psi." And I recall my response was, "What's a Zeta Psi?" Because it wasn't at University of Texas. But once he explained everything to me, I jumped into it with both feet. And that was when I was a sophomore, and was involved heavily ever since.
Do you feel the fraternity helped you move through academic life?
And one nice thing that the fraternity gave was a structure. There was set expectations of studying and of improving academics. And although I wasn't an academic star, I think that the consistency helped me improve just a bit.
What line of work did you go into after college?
Well, I was in ROTC and I joined the United States Air Force right after college. And it was kind of an interesting experience because a lot of military life is working with other people. And academics doesn't teach you to do that. But one thing that Zeta Psi was very helpful in was teaching me how to interact with different types of people in different lines of work or college and different career projections. And that was very helpful to me and actually helped me succeed. Although I only stayed for 4 years, moved on to another engineering job before my brothers and I started a company that was heavily involved in sales, and recruiting is sales, and I'd learned to recruit people in Zeta Psi, and so for my 19 years in that business, the skills I learned from Zeta Psi in recruiting helped me in my sales business. After that job, I took a job with Zeta Psi and am learning fraternity things every day.
Dave, if you had one anecdote to share with us, what would it be?
Well, I have many, obviously, since I work for Zeta Psi, but one that just happened a couple of days ago. Out of the blue, we found out one of our young men from Ireland was coming to visit, and he couldn't find a place to stay in New York City, so we invited him up to Pearl River, where our headquarters is. And here's a 20-year-old guy, and I'm a 55-year-old guy, and another one of our staffers. And just the fact that we were members of Zeta Psi made us instant friends. We had an instant connection. And
sorry. Dave, if you had one anecdote from your time in the fraternity, what would it be?
I think this applies across my 35 years involved in the fraternity, but meeting people that you find are members of Zeta Psi, there's an instant connection, and this has been really accentuated with our chapters over in the United Kingdom, where we meet people from entirely different countries, different cultures really, and we have an instant connection with them and become instant friends, and you almost feel like you already know them, even though we're separated by generations and an ocean.
What experiences as an elder could you relate to the fraternity actives right now?
I think that actives need to understand that we're all on the same team, that elders want to be associated with actives. It's part of our existence, and that we need to communicate with each other as brothers and as friends, and not as different organizations.
Dave, one last question, and this is really more a thought. Could you tell us about how you and your brother started the Iota Alpha chapter, and a little bit about the importance Iota Alpha plays today in the greater Zeta Psi organization?
Yeah, so my brother Rip, as I mentioned, was Berkeley Zeta, and he called me up and talked about it, and that spring of my sophomore year, and I found some other guys, Keith Cassell and Hank Budress, and then my brother Rip was able to work a deal with Zeta Psi to get a scholarship, and he actually transferred to Texas for the fall of '78, I think it was, and with the 4 of us, started recruiting people. And it was slow and steady. We started in September with 4 guys, and then by March, when we were installed, we had 24 guys. And it was the primary focus the entire time, recruit guys and do things together. We played intramurals. We actually performed in a thing called Sing Song back in those days and did King Tut and came in first place and actually changed Sing Song, where they had to ban instruments after that because we broke the rules and had a live band. And that was right when we were just 13 guys, and it was pretty exciting. After that, it had the momentum, and it kept going, and it's been a part of my life constantly ever since.
Okay, Dave, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Dave, could you explain to us what the concept of brotherhood means in Zeta Psi?
I think that you have to define it personally, and for me, brotherhood, I have both fraternity brothers and I have biological brothers, and I have biological brothers that are fraternity brothers. And there's different connections when you say brotherhood, but to me, what brotherhood means, it's a place and a word where men can actually use the word love together and not feel weird about it. That it's a closeness that's different than any other kind of closeness except for your actual siblings. And it spreads out again as across everyone in the organization. There's that instant desire to want to know somebody and to be close to them.
Dave, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Okay, go.
I'm McLean Key. I'm from the Alpha Nu chapter, Claremont Colleges, specifically Harvey Mudd College.
Mac, describe your first experiences with college life at Harvey Mudd College.
Mudd is a very interesting place. If you're not familiar with it, it's the best way I've ever found to describe it is I turned down MIT and Caltech to go to Mudd. So it's a lot of high-intensity nerds, essentially. So as soon as we got there, the college actually started hazing us. They would fun hazing. They would tell us, for instance, that we had to wake up early to take I don't think it was called the Scholastic Aptitude Test, but it came out to SAT, which we all found a little odd. And that night at about 2 in the morning, they wake us up banging on trash cans and all that, and pull us out of bed, and teach us the college fight song, which is to the tune of the Mickey Mouse Club theme. And then they run us around all the other colleges and have us sing it at the college presidents of the other colleges. And the other colleges, most of them were receptive, but Scripps did, for some reason, pelt us with water balloons. But yeah, so it was an interesting school. They knew how to blow off steam.
So, go ahead. Tell me about your introduction to Zeta Psi.
That was really lucky. At the time...
Actually, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Say my introduction to Zeta Psi was
Oh,
very
okay.
lucky or something like that.
My introduction to Zeta Psi was extremely fortunate. The chapter was very new. It had only been around a year when I got there, and there were no students from Harvey Mudd College in it at the time. And it was fall break. A few of us that were from further away decided to stay around thinking, hey, no classes for 3 days, there's going to be some serious parties. And what we forgot is that most of the people at the Claremont colleges live in California, so they all went home and the campus was completely dead. So some friends of mine and I, we just wandered the campuses looking for a party, and we found some junior or senior girl and just asked her, like, well, do you know where there's a party? She's like, I'm heading there. Like, can we follow you? You know, pathetic freshman. And she let us, so I really owe her a debt. We got to the party, we didn't know anybody, and another friend of mine and I, most of them bailed, but we just decided, yeah, you know what, we're going to meet everybody here. And it turns out one of the people at the party was a Zeta. And he was kind of impressed with the fact that we just made a conscious effort to meet everybody at the party. So he told us about Zeta Psi and asked if we were interested, and I was, and my friend wasn't, and from there I went down to Rush events, got to know the chapter, and very, very happily joined.
Do you feel the fraternity helped you move through academic life?
Yes and no in weird ways. It didn't help so much with studying for the classes or anything like that. I mean, that was already happening at Mudd, and Didn't happen or help that much with the having tests from previous years because Mudd already gave that out. But it provided an excellent release valve for keeping sane while I was there. Going and hanging out, playing cards with brothers until 3 in the morning, going to parties, getting me off campus, going to the beach, Disneyland, things like that. That probably I wouldn't have done if it weren't for Zeta Psi, and I think they helped keep the academic experience there much more balanced and enjoyable, and therefore manageable.
Mac, what line of work are you in, and did Zeta Psi impact your career?
I'm a patent attorney, and I'd have to say that yes, Zeta Psi is largely responsible for my career. I did not set out to be a patent attorney. I was planning on being a computer science professor immediately after school, and when I applied to different colleges, I ended up getting into a number of them. I decided to stay in Southern California largely because I was in a long-term relationship with a girl that I met because I was wearing a cowboy hat that I was wearing because when I was at a Giants game with my big, half of my face fried, so I decided a baseball cap wasn't covering it anymore. I decided to have a permanent umbrella on my head, and apparently she found that sexy. So as a result of that, I was at UCLA in the PhD program in computer science for a number of years. And as most grad students do, I from time to time needed to do something to bring in money so I could eat and pay rent and all that. And I exhausted a number of different options that I didn't really enjoy, and I actually stumbled into patent law. A place was looking, a very prestigious firm that I knew nothing about, was looking for somebody with a CS or EE background to draft patents and do responses, and they said, we'll teach you what to do. And I always had an interest in law, and I was like, well, this is perfect. Let me give this a shot. Absolutely loved it. Dropped the PhD program, went to law school, and I'm a very happy patent attorney today, pretty much entirely because of Zeta Psi and a sunburn.
Mac, what anecdote would you like to share about Zeta Psi?
Oh, what anecdote? Can we come back to that one?
Sure.
All right.
What has your experience as an elder taught you?
Oh,
You're the elder Phi, so...
patience.
So you put that back in.
Oh, right. My experience as an elder has really taught me patience, and it's become more and more entertaining to watch as some of the undergrads that I work with become elders that work with undergrads, because it doesn't take long before they too are learning patience. Things that just made sense as an active now cause you on the other side to blink and wonder what on earth they're thinking. So it's been fun to try and crawl back into the active head to figure out how it is that I can get them to do what it is that I want them to be doing. And it doesn't always work.
What advice would you give our actives?
I would say, oh yeah.
Go ahead.
I think the best advice I can give the actives is to take part in every aspect of Zeta Psi that you can. The opportunities available to you are going to launch you into things that you would never dream that you would be involved in. And this is true as an active and as an elder. I was an Iowa rural, kid that moved to LA, joined the fraternity, came out here to DC, and all of a sudden out here, because of my experience or my participation in Zeta Psi, I'm interviewing cheerleaders from Div 1 schools and models to see whether or not they will be debutantes in the National Debutante Ball and Cotillion. Right? Something I never thought growing up that I would end up doing. So if you really get into Zeta Psi and stay involved, it's going to take you to some wonderfully weird places.
Okay, Mac, thanks a lot.
We got the. Yeah, I can do honor. So what is honor?
You should
Is this-
say, as one of the 5 points of Zeta Psi, honor.
All right. As one of the 5 points of Zeta Psi, honor, I think, can best be summed up as just really doing the right thing no matter what. No matter how trivial it seems to do it or how inconvenient it is to you, or really how there's no consequence even necessarily for doing, or no consequence that seems major to you for doing the wrong thing. I think that best sums it up, is that when it matters, when it doesn't matter, no matter what, you're doing the right thing.
There's a light flicker there.
Say again?
There's a light flicker there.
Oh, mic click? All right.
Light flicker.
Oh,
The-
light flicker.
I think it was the refrigerator one on there.
Okay.
The light.
Should I just do it all again?
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
don't mind.
Okay,
So how would I start again?
one of the 5 points of Zeta Psi, honor.
All right. Well, good. Maybe I'll babble less this time.
It's best defined as.
Right. All right. One of the 5 points one of the 5 points of Zeta Psi. All right.
Need a drink?
Desperately, but not yet. I actually have duties until almost the end of the evening. All right. One of the 5 points of Zeta Psi, honor, is best defined as doing the right thing all the time. No matter whether it's a significant issue that's going to have major consequences that people will know about, or something that's fairly trivial, maybe even something you think that really has no consequence, or that perhaps you don't think the consequence matters because the consequence is going to fall upon some evil corporation or bad thing. It really comes down to the no matter what. Somebody's looking over your shoulder, they're not looking over your shoulder. It's got to be in your core to do what you think is right at that time.
Okay,
Okay.
that's good.
An anecdote.
Okay. Your name and chapter.
Hi, I'm Bill McKnight. I'm from the Theta Xi chapter, University of Toronto. I was initiated in 1977. My grad year is 1980.
Let's do that one more time without the high.
Okay.
So you just say
Okay.
And you could
A little louder, too, I think.
I think it's fine. It's fine.
You think it's all right? All right. Ready?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Bill McKnight, Theta Xi, 1980
And
grad.
actually, just look right at him.
Okay.
Okay. For all of it.
Okay. Bill McKnight, Theta Xi, graduation year 1980.
Describe your first experience with college life and with Zeta Psi.
First time I made it to the Zeta House, I was invited to a mixer, and I was attending a different university in Toronto, not the University of Toronto, and so the guys were a little leery about inviting me down because there was a pretty strong bylaw about that. But over the course of the rush period, I guess that eased a bit, and I was fortunate enough to be asked to pledge. But the first time was I fell in love with the place, and I knew I had to be a member there.
Do you feel the fraternity helped you with academic life? How so?
I don't know if the fraternity helped me with my academic life. It extended my academic career, to be honest with you. I didn't get the degree in the minimum number of years. I did enjoy my time as an undergrad, and I did take a little bit longer to get my degree. In terms of my academic marks, I think I did learn a lot from the fraternity about how to do some studying. I didn't have very good study habits, so I learned a few tricks that way. But on the whole, I kind of would say that I didn't benefit necessarily academically.
What line of work are you in now, and did Zeta Psi impact your career along the way?
I'm currently working at CIBC, one of the big banks in Canada, and in the securities operations area. Zeta Psi certainly did, through my contacts, influence my career on numerous occasions. I haven't been at that bank necessarily for, I guess, 4 years now, but I have had, through networking, several Zetas have assisted me in either introducing me to opportunities or introducing me to people which led to other opportunities in my career.
Are there any anecdotes about Zeta Psi that you'd like to share?
I'll pass on that one for now,
Okay.
if I could.
Tell me, what is your experience as an elder dealing with undergraduates taught you?
I served as two occasions rather, as an Elder Phi of the Theta Xi chapter, and there's about a 10-year gap between the two times that I did serve, and it was interesting. It was right around I served the first time just after the 1993 convention, which was in Toronto. So the chapter was on a big high, and that was a very, I think, successful convention. The undergrads still had a great amount of enthusiasm at the chapter house. They weren't as they did, as I found out in the second go around. They were a lot more motivated to work with elders and to keep the house in good physical condition and upkeep. It's an older home. Our house is well over 100 years now, and it needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of TLC. And I think the guys in the first time around in the early 90s were more cognizant of that and respectful of that. The second go around was completely different. There was a lack of motivation. There was a void of leadership, including on the elder side to some extent. So I kind of came in and tried to clean things up, and we went through a bit of I guess for lack of a better term, a bloodletting. But in the end, really what it did is the actives that did stay turned it around, and it was an interesting challenge. I certainly had more than a few arguments with some of the kids, but they taught me a few things too. I mean, they put up some ideas which I never thought really would be something I would consider to adopt into managing as an elder Phi and with my council. But so it was a bit of a two-way street once we cleaned up a lot of some of the messes that we kind of inherited. So.
Do you have any advice for our actives?
Advice to the actives at any chapter would be, several pieces. The first one I would say is do listen to your elders, because they have experienced the same experiences that you're about to and have had in your lives so far. They know some of the pratfalls because they made them. So they have some good wisdoms they can share with you. I think it's mandatory for your best interest to finish your academic career as well as possible, get the best marks you can get, work really hard. Fraternity is a very important part of your life, but your academics are more important. Your fraternity, God willing, will be there forever, but without good marks, you're not going to be able to get your career off to the kind of start it really needs to get off to. So I would say really focus on your academics. And I also say that one of the phrases I remember when I was initiated, and it sticks with me to this day, is once you're a Zeta for life, and never forget that.
Okay.
Of the 5 points of Zeta Psi, I would say that friendship is the most important one for me personally. I look back over the years. I've been a Zeta for 30 plus years, and I look back, who's my son's godfather is a Zeta, my attorney is a Zeta, my real estate broker is a Zeta. And you keep hearing these stories from other Zetas too. Their doctor, their life insurance agent, whatever, they're so intertwined in your life. And never would I have met any of these people had I not joined the Zeta Psi. So I would say that the friendships are lifelong. The strength of our fraternal bond is lifelong. You never forget your undergraduate days, and you certainly don't forget your elder days either.
Okay, so let's circle back around to the first question. Describe your first experience with Zeta Psi. just leave out that part about the
Yeah, okay,
violation.
okay.
All right.
My first experience with Zeta Psi was I was invited down to a mixer at the chapter house, and I had met two of these fellows in a summer job who invited me down, and I didn't really know what to expect. And as soon as I walked in the door, I saw this giant old mansion, just absolutely gorgeous building. The house was just packed with people, and you could just see the enthusiasm. You could see people are having a great time. I was greeted at the door by strangers who welcomed me with open hands, open arms, and I just felt welcome right from literally my first step inside the chapter house. And that stuck with me, and I was delighted to be asked to accept a pledge into the chapter.
Okay.
One other thing.
Compensate for the academic with the social.
Okay. All right. I think socially, from my experiences of this fraternity, as they related to my career, I would say that I would think, without question, that it was just having the self-confidence to state your case, state your opinion, state what the approach you wanted to take to a particular problem. And a lot of people I see in my business experiences are very hesitant to do that. People are frequently trying to think out of the box, try to think that they're more better served if they just say what the boss wants. They think the boss wants to say, whereas deep down, and you talk to them offline, that they don't really believe that. I've always, from my experiences at the fraternity, I have never hesitated to speak my mind, and I obviously do it in a diplomatic way, at least I think I do, and I think that is a tremendous experience, and I think people should take that, should have the self-confidence to state how they feel and state their opinions on how to approach a problem.
What about leadership skills?
When I joined the fraternity, I had absolutely no idea that I had an opportunity to be exposed to anything in a leadership role. I had the pleasure of being elected active president my last year, and I served two terms as elder president. And I really, especially the first time president as the active president, I had zero experience with being a leader. I'd never been in that situation before. So I was kind of learning on the job, but what really helped was the support I got, not only from my fellow actives, but a lot of the elders who were willing to take me aside and talk to me and give me some advice, some pep talk, whatever it was, to help me in that role. And I felt by the end of my term I didn't want to give up the presidency, because I enjoyed being in that role so much. Not on an ego thing. I just enjoyed working with the chapter and being a major part of it.
Real good.
Is that a survey question too?
Okay, so start with your name and your chapter.
Okay. I'm Mark Williams. I am from the Tulane chapter at Beta Tau. I pledged in 2000.
So why don't you do that one right from the top again?
Okay. My name is Mark Williams. I went to Tulane University and pledged the Beta Tau chapter at Tulane. I joined in 2000 as a sophomore after staying anti-Greek for a full year.
So what was your first experience with Zeta Psi, and why did you pledge?
Both of my RAs as a freshman were Zetas, and several of the guys on my floor joined as freshmen. And after that freshman year, I kept considering those guys as friends, and I didn't really think anything about joining a fraternity, and really didn't want to join a fraternity until the semester, my fall semester, my sophomore year, when the guys basically started rushing me without me realizing it, and next thing I knew, I was pledging a fraternity, pledging Zeta Psi.
Do you feel the fraternity helped you move through academic life? In what ways?
The fraternity really became helpful after I graduated as an undergraduate. I came to grad school here in DC, and I got involved with the Washington Scholars Program, and that mentorship and that time frame moving through grad school really helped me professionalize my education.
Let's just do that one more time so we can get it without
Sure.
the gap.
Okay.
So, from the top, how did the fraternity help you move through academic life, grad school?
So the fraternity really helped me moving from the undergraduate period to my grad period. When I came up to DC for grad school, I didn't have a family home. I didn't have really any contacts in this area, and I became involved with the Washington Scholars Fellowship Program, which helped mentor me through grad school, helped me professionalize that education, and turn it into my career now.
What line of work are you in, and how did Zeta Psi impact your career directly?
After grad school, I got a job, and actually this was my first job, with the Department of Defense, and this was actually through networking with ZETs. One of the ZETs that I met through the DC Elders and through Washington Scholars Program was working for the Department of Defense at the time, and he put out a notice saying that they were hiring. We met informally, and I put in my application, and next thing I know, I was on my way.
Are there any anecdotes about Zeta Psi that you'd like to share?
I think there's a lot of anecdotes that I would like to share, but I'm not going to share on camera. The best thing about the fraternity for me has been the brotherhood moving throughout the years of my life. I realize it's not a single story, but it's the story of Zeta Psi for me. As a 19-year-old kid, I was able to join the fraternity. As a 25-year-old, I was able to find a home. As a 30-year-old, now with kids, I still have a home. And that's been the story for me.
Tell me what your experience as Elder Phi has taught you.
I think the easiest thing is that even though you've left the undergraduate
You
years...
want to restate the question for me?
Sure. My experience as Elder Phi, the DC Elders chapter, or DC Elders Regional Association, has shown me that being involved in any way you can after you leave college, after you leave even grad school behind where you might have associated with a chapter, can really be rewarding to you. As the opportunities to network grow, as the opportunities to make lifelong friends, those are the types of things that become really cherished memories for me.
Do you have any advice for the actives?
My best advice for the actives would be, one, this is not a 4-year gig. You've signed up for the long haul, so make a life of it and keep showing up after you graduate. And two is become involved throughout your life. You're only going to get back what you put into it.
Okay. So of the 5 points of Zeta Psi, which one is most meaningful to you?
Of the 5 points, I think they all hold a lot of meaning, but for me, one of the big things is friendship. I came into this fraternity because of friends. I've made very good friends at Tulane. I've made very good friends here in the DC area, and I've made good friends throughout the rest of the country and internationally as well. And those are the types of relationships that now my wife has been able to join me with, and those are the things that I look forward to going forward.
Good. You look good on your walk.
Yeah, that's a lie, but that's
No,
okay.
it's true. It's true.
No, yeah, that's really good.
You do. We're ready? Okay. So we'll start. I'm
Right. Hi, I'm
Say hi.
Locke Walton, class of 1984 at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. I was brother Alpha Iota Beta. I was one of the first pledges to join a reactivated house. My first experience with Zeta Psi was walking into the Zeta House, 25 Bell Avenue in Troy, New York. I remember dust coming down the central column from afar. It was a 3-story, and this guy comes down. I was with another guy from my freshman dorm. His name was Seth Goodman. He was the best man at my wedding. Turned up to be his 8. Good choice. And this guy in bib overalls and a beard, a huge scruffy beard, no shirt, comes down and goes, "Locke Walton, you're a legacy. You're a legacy." And he's, short guy, really intense. I was like, "Oh, I don't think so. I don't know. I don't have any, my dad didn't go to a college that has a Zeta Psi chapter. He told me it wasn't a fraternity." "Well, then your uncle or your grandfather." I said, I really don't think so. I don't think that's right. But he was insistent. And, but it was great because, he actually talked to me, and the dust was from the renovations because the chapter had been closed for 2 years. And this was about the 4th day of school, and we were on rush tours. It was a different time. And I remember so clearly, it was John Spahn. And of course, it turned out to be that we got the story completely wrong. I wasn't a legacy. I'm not a legacy. I never have been a legacy. But 10 years later, I figured out what was going on. Okay, I eventually, of course, joined Zeta Psi and worked for the headquarters staff. And I was at a New York banquet, one of these New York luncheons. And a guy from my church walks in and goes right up to Jim Young, like, Jim, nice to see you again. His name was Flat Toe. He was from the Mu chapter at Stanford. And of course, that's where the legacy thing came from. They just got the story wrong. Jim talked to Mr. Flateau. Mr. Flateau said, hey, there's this guy from my church going to RPI next year. Maybe you should look him up. Jim told the guys, probably that exactly. Jim's an engineer, one of the most brilliant guys I've ever met. And of course, the guys got it wrong. They said, Rush, we know somebody, no legacy, whatever. It worked. It worked.
All right, let me just.
Okay, so how did the fraternity help you through academic life?
Well, I was not the best student. RPI was an engineering and science school, and in my sophomore year, I was taking organic chemistry, and I was actually working pretty hard, and I really didn't do it very well. So my advisor said, hey, you need a new major. Best advice I ever got. So I changed to psychology, which was at RPI really easy. I was, one of the very few psychology, 4 of us. There were only 4 in the entire major. But it left me a ton of time to do Zeta Psi and student government, which I loved. And working with the president of the university, the provost, the academic dean. I eventually became chairman of the judicial board, the IFC senator, and had plenty of time to do Zeta Psi stuff. It was the best decision I ever made. Now, to be fair, I graduated on time, stayed, okay, and got my master's degree on time too. So it worked out great.
What line of work did you go into after college, and did Zeta Psi impact your career?
My first boss out of college, out of graduate school, was Greg McElroy. I was lucky enough to work with him at the headquarters staff. Greg's unbelievable. Great mentor, great leader, patient as a boss. He would tell you things that other bosses wouldn't bother with. Really helped me more than I probably even know. My current job is the president of Westwood College. I run a small campus in Arlington, Virginia. And that's a company that was founded by 2 Zates from Stanford. And when I went to interview for this company, the first question I got asked was, do you know Greg McElroy? Amazing how that name pops up all the time, So absolutely, Zeta Psi has helped me more than I can say.
Are there any anecdotes about Zeta Psi you'd like to share?
Oh, there are a ton. So many good stories. I remember when we started the Cooper Union chapter, and I was working for the headquarters, and we were up at the NYU house. They had a loft down in Washington Square. So, we were on the 6th floor. But it was small. It's New York City. It's tight. Where do you put somebody before you're ready to do the initiation? This is a very space-intensive process. And I went to a place with a big chapter house and 25 rooms, and it was easy. NYU was tough, and this was a big group. Cooper Union had like 20 pledges, and we're trying to get them done in one night. And everybody knows that's going to take a while. So, we had to store them in the bathroom, in a big, big bathroom, and we were so committed to trying to make sure that they didn't feel like they were being abused or anything, but it was the only place, it was terrible, it was the only place we had. Now there were some other guys that's like, well, I suffered more than that. And unfortunately, I think a lot of that silliness is left, creeps back in from time to time, and it's the piece we need to always be guarding against. But I can remember those guys being so happy to get through the service and to get to sit on the couch. They thought that was better than almost anything.
Hang on a second. Go ahead.
Tell me, what has your experience as an elder taught you?
Well, I've been lucky. I've gotten to be an elder with several groups. I've worked with the Maryland chapter over the years, the DC elders, and the New York State Capital District Association of Zeta Psi at the Pi chapter. And I've been lucky enough to, put my toe in the water and get dragged in all cases. And it's been tremendously rewarding. I really like working with the undergraduates, the young guys, try to teach them something. And it's changed over the years what you teach and what they need to know. I would say that the more we focus on setting an example, talking about honor, ritual, we're on the right track. When we're talking about clean the house or, you guys are irresponsible, we're probably wasting time. Over 25 years, I've learned that I didn't like hearing I was irresponsible as an active, and I don't think very many actives like hearing it when they're actives now from elders, and so sure, sometimes they are, and heck, they're 18 to 21-year-old guys that we give the keys to the castle. We let them run the place all for themselves, but it's that mistake. Hopefully it's a discretionary mistake where they've actually thought about it and still made a mistake. I can live with those every day. It's the foolish. It's the foolish that drives me crazy. But still, if we don't give them the opportunity to make mistakes, how do they grow? How do they learn? I had the chance to learn in Zeta Psi, and I want that for them too.
So what advice would you give our actives?
Yeah. My advice to actives hasn't changed. Just think a little bit, okay? Try to put your brain in gear for a minute before making a very short-term decision that could have lifetime consequences. Alcohol can be fun, not a teetotaler. But at the same time, if there's a guy that's had too much and is about to make a dumb decision, as your brother's keeper, it is your obligation to step in and try to make that outcome better. Because little mistakes we make can lead to huge ramifications. And I don't want anybody to be hurt.
So the last point is, out of the 5 points of Zeta Psi, which one do you feel is most impactful, and could you explain?
Sure. For me, Zeta Psi is about honor. It's in our motto. It's the key to what we do. If we behave with honor, if we treat others with honor, particularly women, pledges, people on campus, if we treat them honorably, we will be men of character and distinction. And honor, in my view, it's the foundation of the ritual. If we have honor and we act honorably, we're not going to make too many mistakes. We're going to be pretty happy in life. And ultimately, reap the rewards of a good life.
Done. You nailed it.